Hi, folks. Welcome to class this morning. We had a little poll in the chat today. YouTube has new features of taking a poll. So thanks for those who answered. It's very exciting for us to hear what you have to say. And it sounds like people are pretty much ready, one way or another, to start class. Maybe if you're not ready, you don't have time to do the poll. So we might have bad data, right? This may be correlation, but not causation. I don't know. I'm just going to say sciencey things. I have a chair. Do you have a chair? Something that is not too tall or too short. I like to have my knees in line with my hips. Sometimes Scott likes to have his knees a little lower than his hips, but not too low, right? Like if your legs are too low, then it kind of makes it weird to try and get on your sits bones because the chair like cuts off the edge of your legs. So sitting towards the front of your chair once you have it, so you can be up on top of your sits bones, and then your feet can be just in line with your hips on the floor pretty easily, and your hips can be kind of relaxed. So I also like kind of a firm seat, like a big old cushy couch. Sometimes hard to like get feedback and sit up. So anyway, those are all my thoughts. Dining room chair is usually pretty good. Um, should we do some stuff? Lateral line. What's the lateral line? I'm not sure what Scott put in the chat, but that's what he said to me. So I'll just describe what the lateral line is. A lot of times when you hear the word line, it's talking about fascial lines. So we have all these muscles, and we think about the muscles a lot, but in the past, I don't know, decade or couple decades or so, people have talked more and more about not just a single muscle group, but how all the muscles connect and through the fascia. So the fascia is the membrane around the muscle, and then those membranes connect to other membranes of muscles and tendons and kind of everything. Fascia is just kind of like the web through the body to connect things. But we can see lines of muscle where there's one muscle, there's fascia around it. That fascia connects to more fascia of a different muscle that is surrounded by that fascia, and then all the way down the line. So when we talk about lines, it's like these lines of muscles that connect to each other, that coordinate together pretty well, and that will also kind of pull on each other, right? So if I have one muscle, another muscle below it, and they both connect evenly, that's nice. But if one connects too much, it kind of pulls the other muscle. It's not really coming on. Sometimes you end up with some problems there. Um, you want both muscles to work evenly, right? One can be overworked and the other can be overstretched. So if we get both working evenly, then we maybe have a better situation. Same thing with stretch. One could be overstretched and the other could stay tight. And so you try and try and try to get a muscle to release. And what you end up doing sometimes is just stretching the muscle below it. So when we think about it in lines, it's sometimes just a more holistic way of contacting some of our patterns. So the lateral line is basically your side body. So we could think about it from kind of the outside edge, pinky toe side of the foot, outside of the foot, and up the side of the shin, and then this IT band, maybe you know the IT band, up the side of the hip, and then through the side body, which will be the obliques. And then I like to think of it all the way up through my pinky finger and work with it that way. So kind of up the back / side of the arm, outside of the forearm, and up through the pinky finger. So you could think of that whole side body being connected. And the reason we're on a chair is I want to start with feeling the feet a little more and the outside edge of the foot, and then work our way up through the outside edge of the hip and into the obliques a little bit more. We'll see if we get to the pinky finger, but that's kind of my thought to start with that. So here we are. We got the feet in the floor, knees straight ahead. If knees are opening or falling together, I have kind of something's a little amiss in that lateral line, right? We're going to try to get it just all lined up here. So I want the knees to stay straight ahead. And then I'm going to start with some of this foot movement I do sometimes of rolling to the outside edge, the pinky toe. So the arch of my foot is up, right? If you look at it on this side, the arch of the football, big toe is up. And then as I roll to the outside edge of my foot, I try not to move my knee, right? So I am actually lengthening in the lower leg, in the outside of the lower leg. as I go to the outside edge of the foot and bring it back down. And then let's switch feet. So I like to do this. I don't know, sometimes it helps me. Put my fingers on my knees and I don't let my knees move. You can put your hands on your knees or you could just look at them. And by keeping my knees in place, I'm asking my foot, ankle, and lower leg to all participate. If my knee opens, my foot and my hip are doing it, right? So I have to just sort of observe all the way up into the hip. I can actually feel a little bit of response in my IT band, the outside of my thigh. You may or may not feel that. It's pretty subtle, but it's possible. And then last time, finish out that set. We're going to do the same thing the other direction, right? So we've lengthened the lateral line down here. Now we're going to shorten it. It's going to get into these muscles through here. So I roll to the big toe side and let the pinky toe side come up. And probably the knee wants to come in, right? I'm going to try to keep it straight ahead. Lower it down. Then the other side, roll to the big toe side. Pinky toe side comes off and back down. And without your knee going in. Now there's a good and bad thing about me when I demonstrate this. I demonstrate it in a pretty big range of motion, I would say. And that's good because you can see what you're trying to do. But I think sometimes it's bad because my experience with most people is they don't get their pinky toe side up very far, right? Or they don't get the big toe side up very far. That people, a lot of us are really limited in this range of motion. I happen to have really mobile feet and ankles. I've worked in them for many, many years to get to this point. I probably started with pretty good mobility anyway. So as you see what you're doing, you might have just a little bit of movement one way or the other. Your knee might want to move right away. It's fine. Just see what you can do with that idea. And then settle everything down and together. Okay, and then let's just do a little bit of lifting and lowering. So I'm going to start both heels together, lift the heels up, let the toes spread out, and then notice as your heels come up, if they tend to roll out or in, or if your knees tend to go out or in. And you're going to see that mostly when your heels get to the highest point. So think of keeping your heels a little lower so that you keep everything really even, right? So I don't roll one way or the other. Try to go big toe, second toe, third, fourth, and pinky toe. They all get even attention. It's not really that much weight, so I wouldn't say weight, but attention. And then knee straight out. Maybe you even visualize side of the leg, releasing. A little bit of belly. Always a little bit of belly. And then I'm going to walk my feet a little forwards. So my heels are kind of more towards the front. Maybe a little in front of my knee, just barely, so that I can do toes up. Same thing as you lift your toes. Do you roll out? Do you roll in? Do you turn out? Do your knees go out? All that stuff. What can you do? Straight in line. Drawbridge up. Drawbridge down, right? You don't want the drawbridge to roll out or in. Just straight up. Straight down. Sometimes inner thighs grab. See if you can let that go. A couple more. And then bring yourself up to standing. Okay, so we're going to play with this a little bit in a standing position. So set your feet up a little wider than your hips. And maybe you can even feel, if I go too wide, I right away tend to roll, and like my foot flattens out and I sort of roll in on my feet. So maybe you can feel if you're wide that you have that tendency. But just notice in general, like what's happening. Now, when we were sitting, we were rolling out and rolling in the feet, right? Now we're standing. We want the whole foot on the floor. We don't want to roll out or roll in. But can you feel the pinky toe side of the foot grounded? Maybe you have to roll a little bit to do that. If you're used to rolling in, you might have to roll a little bit to feel that pinky toe side. Keep the big toe side down too. Don't roll so much that the big toe comes up, right? That's not great. So big toe is down, whole heel is down, a little bit of energy down through the pinky toe side. Now, similar to what we just did sitting, you're going to lift your heel. And as you lift your heel, you're going to feel your weight shift over onto the left leg. Pinky toe stays in place. I'm not going to turn out. I'm not going to turn in. And come back down. Let's try it out. Reach over. Stand on this leg. Whole foot. And back down. Just pouring into alignment. Ear down to pinky toe. Now I said maybe we wouldn't get to the pinky finger, but I just want to. So reach your arm forward. Feel the pinky side of the finger up. And imagine pinky down to pinky. Right? One long line. Not off. Right? Not out. Not back. And then same thing the other way. Take a look at your feet. How'd you do? My heel turned out a little. I'm going to turn it back in. Spread out my toes. Push the other foot, the left foot. Ear to pinky toe. And back down. And pinky finger. Ready? Pinky finger. All the way down to pinky toe. One more. I have a great production assistant. He just made it perfect so you could see my long line standing, but I'm going to go down to the floor. It's going to make him work a little hard. So next thing, we're going to go down to the floor. Okay, so that same line, that same work, lie on your side. So we're going to go back to the first side we were feeling the length on, right? We had that left arm up feeling the length. So now we take that length down onto the mat. Straight line, just like when you were standing. Now, it's up to you. If your shoulder's tight, maybe you can't get that arm all the way out. You could take it out and flip the arm up so we were just like we were standing. You could karate chop the hand down. Either way, it just feels a little different. What does your shoulder tolerate? Or if it doesn't tolerate that, just pull it in. And then see if you can feel kind of that same idea. Pinky finger down to the outside edge of the foot. It's a little flex like you were standing. You can feel a little bit of the side of the foot pressing into the floor. Now we need a little bit of rib lifting up, not collapsing. So you have to engage. Imagine that whole side, just a little bit engaged. Take the other leg out like you were standing on the other foot. Don't get too crazy with the flex. See if you could feel just a nice, even, soft flex of the foot, reaching through the heel. Take our right arm up and a couple breaths. If it doesn't work, if your balance is off, keep your arm down. Now, to really get the lateral line, you can't let the ribs come forward. You can't let the butt go back. You can't rotate, all those things, right? So we're paying attention. Hip over hip, ribs connected, a little bit lifted, toes pointing forward. Now you're just going to rotate the top leg. Open, so the knee looks up, toe points up, turn it back in. Rotate it open without moving your hip back, turn it back in. Rotate it open, ribs stay together, turn it back in. Rotate and back in. Again, hand can stay up or hand can go down. The next thing's a little more challenging. You might want to take the hand down or you might want to keep it up. You're going to take the bottom leg, float it up, and bring it back down. It's really hard. And bring it up without your hip going backwards and come down. Maybe you can see my hip's going backwards. Keep trying. There we go. That was better. And lower leg up. And take it down. And two more, lower leg up. And take it down. I'm feeling this hip, this kind of lateral line. That's fine. And up. And take it down. And relax everything. And push up to sitting. Okay, let's see what we can do on the other side. Sliding out one straight line of your body. Soft, kind of flexed foot. Thinking of that pinky toe side of the foot. Press down just a little. Karate chop down. Just a little. With the hand, ribs a little lifted and in. Not letting the hip drop backwards on top. Stack that up. Arm floats up. Leg floats up a little. So already, right, all the way to the obliques. Working on that top side. Pinky finger to pinky toe, working on the bottom side. Relax your neck. Arm up or arm down. And rotate your leg. Open. Parallel. Just your leg, not your hip. So third option, hand on your hip so you can feel if it starts to move. One more. And then a little more challenging. Bottom leg, lower down. And lower, trying to keep the hip in place. Lift and lower the bottom leg. Two more. And back down and rest everything. Yeah, maybe that outer hip a little bit. Maybe you felt your obliques in your belly. That'd be good too. Coming up to sitting. Okay, so let's take this into bridge. A little like when we were sitting, right? We were just feeling that knees straight forward, this kind of outer line connection. So let's play with that here, coming onto your back. Look at your feet. Set them up where you want them to be. Slide your butt forward and roll onto your back. And then just like when you're in the chair, maybe roll your feet a little to the outside, a little to the inside. Do your knees move? Can you do it without your knees moving? Feel what it's like when your knees open a little, when they come in a little. Can you set them up just in line with the toes, in line with the hips? Now, before we go into the bridge, let's just get the obliques a little more awake because I feel like my hip to my foot is pretty awake and we want to do both. So let's do a couple mini crunches, see if we can get the abs coming on a little more from the ribs. We worked on this the past couple weeks, right? Getting the rib connection with the breath. So maybe some of that is useful. Exhale, head comes up. Hold it here. Exhale a little more. Ribs connect, and then maybe visualizing that side body connection too. Coming back down. And breathing in. Exhale. Ribs connect, visualizing the side body all the way down. Can you still feel your pinky toes and the outside edge of the foot? Just aware of it. It's not really doing anything. Exhale, coming up. And one more time, check out your knees as you do it. Are they still straight up? And back down. Let's go arms to the ceiling. Arms to the ceiling for bridge, a little more challenging. Your hips typically don't go quite as high because you just don't have the extra support. So put it in your center a little more attentive to some of this other stuff. So we feel pinky toe, outside of the shin, outside of the thigh, maybe a little visualization to the obliques, rolling up. Leave the knees in line. Imagine that long line from your armpit to your pinky toe. Rolling back down. Pelvis back on the mat. And going again. Whole foot with pinky toe awareness, not rolling out or in. Knees forward, in line with the hips. Long side body awareness. Rolling back down. One more time. We'll add in some arm movement at the top this time, rolling up. Remember, the pelvis keeps lifting up, but the ribs keep dropping down. That helps my obliques come on and the abdominals. Now we go pinky finger up and back overhead. Awareness of pinky finger to pinky toes. Bring the arms back up. Two more. Pinky finger overhead. Pinky toes forward. Knees in line with the hips. One more. And rolling back down. And a couple breaths on your back. And bring yourself up to sitting. Okay, so let's take this awareness into the roll up or the roll down, or however you like to do it. So we've done a lot of stuff with the feet in line with the hips, or maybe a little wider than the hips. And one thing that can be challenging about bringing your feet together is it's got to be just a little more length through the side body. And you might think like, oh, it's barely any length at all, right? To go from here to here, but it matters, right? A little bit matters. It's like a little bit too much sugar or a little bit too much salt, right? It's like it matters. Just everything tastes wrong. So often what happens, we bring the legs together, but it doesn't really let go through here. It pulls on the knee, the feet turn out, the pelvis tucks under or it arches, all this stuff because it's pulling on the line. And if things don't let go in the way they need to, right, or work out the way they need to, it just puts some tension somewhere. So maybe you do hip distance, right? That'd be fine. If bringing your feet together makes your knees bang or something like that, stay with hip distance. Maybe you do feet together and just thinking from the back of the pelvis down the side body to the pinky toe. You can see it on my foot, right? Maybe it just turns in all the way straight. Yeah. So I'm going to bend my knees. That's going to be helpful. It'll keep my foot from turning out as much, but I'm still going to pay attention to it. Round spine, maybe a little brush down the side of the leg to get a sense of it. And then a lot of times when I do that, it's harder to get my back to open. My lower back grabs a little bit. So I'm going to think of my lower back being a little more open because my legs are together. Sometimes I just have to think about it. Ribs together. Rolling back. Hands on your legs or not. Rolling down however far you want to. And coming back up. So I'm going to do a couple with my hands holding my legs, mostly so that I can make sure my knees don't go out. It's like I can kind of feel everything coming together. So that's the thing I'm thinking about more than anything. It might also help with your spine, but even if you don't need it for your spine, just to give you some feedback. Now, don't let the knees pull out as you come up. Keep them where they are. And going again. Okay, can you feel how they want to push out at different points? Mine do. I think it's pretty common for people to want to do that. So you can stay with hands on your legs. We're going to do 3 more. Or you can try putting that pinky finger idea in. Arms are reaching forward. And then as you come down, you have the long reach. Pinky toe up, pinky fingers up and overhead. And then coming up, trying to keep the knees from pulling out. That long lateral line awareness. And up. 2 more. Inhale. And inhale, starting up. Knees stay in. It draws me into my belly. One more. And then coming up to sitting. Okay, so ready to switch. I'm getting ready to switch. Let's come up to standing. Toes forward as you look at your feet. Unrolling your spine. Knees stay forward. All the way back up. Okay, let's pass it off to Mr. Anderson. Sir Anderson.
All right, so let's continue in that vein of the lateral line and continue in standing. And so let's start off standing with your feet about hip width apart. And invite awareness to your side ribs. And imagine both your legs are dropping out of those side ribs. So strictly laws of physics, I'm going to, kind of bend or maybe break a few laws of physics here, but let's see what that image feels like in your body. From your side rib cage, let your right leg drop down into the floor, outside edge of the foot anchors. On the left side of your ribs, let your left leg fall to the floor, anchoring, rooting the outside edge of the foot. And a few breaths here. Slightly deepen your breath. Because if you remember that side line or lateral line that Colette outlined for you, it includes your side ribs. So let your inhale fully infuse those side ribs. So a lot of times what feels like neck tension originates from the rib cage. So use your breathing to free up your ribs, especially those side ribs. Because side ribs directly connect to the neck. So maintaining that slower, deeper breathing. The breathing that sets into motion your side ribs. Step your feet wide apart. Turn your left foot in, then your right foot out. And let's do some movement. Exhale, bend your right knee. Inhale, straighten it. Stale air out. Fresh air infuses your side ribs. The next time your knee in the bent position, let's pause there. Now with the next exhale, tip your hips a bit. Hand to knee, hand to hip. Settle your whole torso into the diagonal, including your neck and head. And continue using the in-breath to infuse your side ribs. And to continue the theme, bring your left arm forward. Swing it through. And facing straight ahead, 3 breaths here. So not only infusing the left side ribs, but also the right side ribs. And with the next inhale, come up, back to the front. Second side, turn your right foot in, turn your left foot out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. And next time, knee in the bent position, pause there. Your spine's currently vertical, isn't it? With the next out breath, shift from the vertical to the diagonal. Hand to knee, hand to hip. Whole body diagonal. Continue working with your breath to enliven your side ribs. Now bring your right arm forward, sweep it through, and breathe. And with the next inhale, come on up. Turn back to the front. And then step your feet together. So now lowering yourself to the floor. And here's an additional challenge if you'd like. To lower yourself down, explore squatting down. All the way down. Then sitting in crossed legs. However you made it to the floor, you made it there. Now, if in sitting crossed legs like this, your knees are up really high, then sit up on something. And you could sit up in a chair. That would be perfectly fine. Now, whether you're sitting on the ground or a chair or up on a pillow or a cushion, continue using your breath to infuse and enliven your side ribs. Then maintaining that breathing as you turn to your right. So using each inhale to aerate your side ribs. Then back to the middle. Turn to your left. And back to the middle. And take both your feet forward. You've done this already. Fold your right leg in. So side ribs have a front and a back. So folding forward, hands maybe come to your knees, maybe to your shin, maybe to your ankle or foot. That's not the point here. The point here is to whole spine create flexion. So you can probably see I'm looking down at my thigh. And then use your breath to aerate your side back ribs. So you have side ribs, you have back ribs, and their junction, aerating your side back ribs. That's where a lot of people, their rib cage is pretty stuck. Then come on up and both feet forward. Then the other side, pull your left leg in. Little fold from the hip. When you hit diminishing returns, then spine flexion. So you end up looking down at your thigh or your knee. So this position naturally opens the back side ribs. Then use that openness as an opening for your breath. Using your breath to infuse the junction of back ribs, side ribs. Then roll up. Both feet forward. You can probably see this one coming. Fold forward. Hip flexion, spine flexion. Hands rest where they land. and you know what to do with your breath. And roll on up. And come up to standing any which way. You can explore coming up the reverse of how you went down. Step your feet wide apart. Turn your left foot in, your right foot out. Keep your spine in the vertical. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Bend. Straighten. Now, resisting the tendency to go way off in the weeds in terms of sinews and fascia and their interconnectedness. So I'm going to stick with the functional, not go into the theoretical. So next time, knee in the bent position. Take your spine from vertical to diagonal. And once you settle into the diagonal, belly, chest, nose, primarily facing forward. And keeping that orientation as you take your back leg and spiral it internally. Now, that's not to suggest you move your foot. It's more of an internal dynamic. Keep breathing. You know what to do with your breath. Now, keeping that back leg internally spiraling inwardly, bring your arm forward and through, and breathe. Ride the inhale up, back to the front. Second side, turn your right foot in, your left foot out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten, torso straight up and down. Vertical orientation. The next time that knee in the bent position, let's park it there. And with a forthcoming out breath, move from the vertical to the diagonal. And orienting your torso, so belly, chest, nose face straight ahead. And maintaining that orientation as you spiral your back leg inwardly. Right arm then comes forward, sweeps through, breathing into your side ribs. Inhale up, back to the front, and then step your feet together. So from your side ribs, we've been talking a lot about those side ribs. Let your two legs hang out of your side ribs and root down through the outside edges of your feet, little toe side. Anchoring your little toes into the floor, the outside edges of your heels, and the balls of the feet, especially little toe side. Breathe into your side ribs. Maintaining that rootedness, that connectedness as you bring both arms forward. At risk of my arms going out of the screen, exhale both arms up. Exhale, side bend to your right. Root down your left foot. Reach out through both arms. Exhale, back up. Inhale, side ribs. Exhale, side bend left. Exhale up. Inhale down. Let your legs drop out of your side ribs. Lift up through your ears. Remember, Mr. Spock is very logical. His ears were pointy. Lift your pointy Spock ears up. So you're lifting up not from your nose and chin, not from the back of your head. Lift your Mr. Spock logical ears up. Keep breathing into your side ribs. Now, most of us, we aren't going to squat down until our butt touches the floor. But explore coming down any which way. In a time of practice, maybe you can bend deeper to go directly down. Whether you're sitting on the floor, chair, cushion, fill in the blank. Few deep breaths. Now, personally, I'm feeling a lot of grabbing in my hips because my butt's a little bit too low. So I'm going to get my cushion here. So take whatever time you need. Pause the video if you like to get something to sit up on if you were feeling a grabbing in your hips. And you may even want to get that stool back. Remember right at the outset, Colette was talking about the height of the stool in relationship hips to knees. So what we're looking for is sitting upright without too much grabbing in the hip and groin area. So I've been talking quite a bit about breathing into the side ribs and a little bit about breathing into the side back ribs. Now breathe circumferentially into your ribs. Because remember, your ribs go from your spine around the side to your sternum. With each inhale, infuse that whole circumference. And we could just as accurately say that your ribs go from your sternum all the way around to your spine. Breathe into that circumference. Now that may seem semantical. It's like, wait a minute, that's the same thing, back to front, front to back. But quite often the image in the mind will create a different experience in the body. So to take a few more deep circumferential rib breaths. Now with this exhale, let go of the deep breathing. Return to normal breathing. Most of the neck muscles attach to the ribs. Let your arms relax. So often there's a sense of using the arms to hold the neck and head. Let your rootedness support your spine, support your neck, support your head, and relax your arms. So with trees, the limbs don't support the trunk. We know the roots support the trunk, and it's the trunk that supports the limbs. So whatever you're sitting upon, whether chair or cushion or other, practice roots, rootedness supporting your trunk, trunk supporting your limbs, so it's not so much a problem of arms supporting the trunk. It's the fallout, it's the corollary, that for a lot of people, it's their neck supporting their whole body. Arms, trunk, neck, even the legs. So we did all this work with the side ribs to help release the connection ribs to neck. Now continuing the conversation, roots support trunk. Trunk supports limbs, your upper extremities. And your trunk supporting your neck and head. Now, if later today or tomorrow or sometime next week, you notice that your neck feels tight, check in with your breathing. And specifically, breathing into your side ribs. And then next week, when we do this class again, you can check in with us. Did that help release your neck tension? It does for a lot of people. So we're right about at time. I'll be doing a webinar here very shortly. You can check in via Pilates on Harrison. I'll be talking about high intensity cardio. We're going to do a cardio workout together. A lot of these ideas and how we work with the body is directly applicable to doing cardio. Even though it may seem like, oh, we're doing the somatic work, it's completely separate from doing any kind of cardio or weight training, but actually they're very complementary. So Colette's putting that link up in the chat. Please feel free to join us. And any comments, questions? Looks like it's kind of quiet out there. Well, thank you for your time and your attention, and let's do this again next week. Bye-bye.